Okay. Merci. Yeah, so I moved a Laravel application to the Laravel Cloud. I was one of the lucky few who gained early access to Laravel Cloud back in December. And of course it was right before Christmas, and then I just simply shipped a simple app there first. And then after the last meetup actually, when one of the Laravel Cloud team members from Austria showed us the new things that Cloud can do, I decided it's time to move an app. So who of you knows, let's go back one more time, who of you knows the app I'm talking about? Quite a few, okay, cool. It's cool, thank you. Yeah, so just some additional housekeeping to your housekeeping. I'll be sharing the links and more code, because it's small, on my website after the talk. So no need to write everything down, except for one slide, but more on that later. So who am I, for those who don't know? On most platforms, you can find me as Neverything. And if you want even more platforms to follow me, go to silvanhagen.com/links. So you might be wondering, why move to Laravel Cloud? Like many of you, I'm looking at you and your new gadgets here. Some people might suffer from a shiny object syndrome. So do I. I like trying out new things and not finishing my side projects most of the time. So I was super happy to try out the cloud. And I'm not very good at servers. So yeah. So how would you organize a moving day? I guess many of you have deployed applications live before, or moved infrastructure at a certain point, or moved servers, or moved from a staging to a live setting. So how does one prepare for moving day? In my experience, you're never fully ready for moving day, especially if it involves furniture as well. But yeah, so I decided it was time. Let's go to the cloud. Things to do when you move: set aside enough of your favorite caffeinated drinks. I called my mom and told her that your computer, your phone, or your toaster, I'm unavailable for at least 2 days for tech support, so please don't call me. And then I kissed my wife and told her, see you in 2 days. But now for real, what do you need to do if you want to move to the Laravel Cloud? At the beginning, they now offer MySQL beta access as well, I think since yesterday or since early last week. But at the beginning, they only offered Postgres as a database driver. And because for another project, I really want to try out Postgres anyways, because I want to try some of the extensions it offers, I decided, why not move it to Postgres? Then I must admit, I always stored my files on disk. It was the first time for me to use an S3 compatible object storage. So that was fun and very painless actually. So yeah, that was not too bad. So another thing that I looked into is what kind of local services that I'm using on my app are maybe not yet available on the cloud, or should better be done as a third-party service. So, from MySQL to Postgres, who has done a migration like this? Sort of, yeah, few. How was the experience? Don't want to talk about? Okay, okay. I'm going to talk about it. Yeah. Like I said before, MySQL is now supported as beta version as a driver. Yeah. So, few things before you shoot yourself in your own foot by moving database drivers. Databases are very similar, but not the same. So you can sort of exchange them, and Laravel does a good job in like allowing you to use different drivers, but they're not the same, not exactly. So yeah, check your custom queries if you have them, and make sure the packages that you want to use are actually compatible with the database driver that you are going to move to. And then you need a way to move your database content. For example, I had this I'm sure there's an easier way to do it, but I had this query where I, as an admin of my platform, wanted to sort projects in a specific order by a field value. Super easy in MySQL, a bit different in terms of syntax on Postgres. It's not classic group by. Group by would be abstracted, would work the same, but that's not what I actually wanted. I want this order for these projects. So yeah, a little bit of work to change some of the few custom queries that I have. So, as many of you in the Laravel ecosystem, you probably use some Spatie packages. No? None? Okay. I use a lot of Spatie packages. They're high quality, good, well documented, and some of them don't work with Postgres. Yet, hopefully, because this comment is very, very, very old. But this is for Laravel tags. I'm using the tags, and underlying that, they use the Laravel translatable package, which uses some JSON format to query the translations, which has a different syntax in Postgres than in MySQL. I'm pretty sure they since changed their stance, because Flare is also a project by the guy who commented that they don't use Postgres. So apparently they started to move some of their things to Postgres as well. And when I looked into the different ways to move content from your existing database into Postgres, there's lots of different ways of doing this, and depending on the size of your project, it might be different for you, but I really like the idea of using Laravel's query builder. So they offer a command further down in this blog post, which sort of worked, but more on that later. Then, like I said before, I never used an object storage. So far, my projects were so small or didn't have that much data that I never really ran out of disk space on the servers. I'm getting close with one of the projects, and I can't go further up in getting a bigger server, so I needed to do this anyways. And I finally looked into object storage. Because when I did this, it was still early in the Laravel Cloud. They didn't have object storage. It was grayed out, you couldn't add it, and it was not yet available. So I basically ended up getting the Hetzner S3 compatible object storage, which came out somewhere last year and is insanely cheap and works really well. So from third-party services to something else. No, other way around. From local services to third-party services. So I couldn't get Puppeteer to work on the Laravel Cloud. I don't think it's possible to install it yet. So Stefan, who sits here, thank you, Stefan, has a great service that also uses Puppeteer, but is not on my server or on the cloud server. So I decided to give it a try and changed out the command to create the social share images for my project. And I probably got the cutest coupon code ever. I'm not gonna say the coupon code, but it was very cute, it was very cool. And it took me about 10 minutes to switch from my local command that I use to generate the share images with BrowserShot, another Spatie package by the way, to this service that Stefan offers under the name of Screenly. That's Screenly with 3 E's. 3. Screenly, otherwise it's something else. So that was easy so far. I added my domain once I was sort of satisfied with the move. And I don't know how it is for you, but I never remember whether I should proxy the stuff through Cloudflare or not. So I turned it on and off, and at one point it worked. Domain was live, I was happy. So yeah, what's there left to do? Profit, right? It was really, really smooth. It took me, I think, half a day, maybe even less. So I almost got angry that like I had so much caffeinated drinks next to me. I turned off my phone, and I told my wife to not bother me. But so yeah, there I was. Site was live, everything good, or so I thought. It's not that like I get a lot of traffic or that people send in a lot of new Livewire or tall stack projects to my site, but there was silence and more silence and maybe too much silence. I don't have kids personally, but I think that's the point where you as parents might go into the room to check what your kids are up to, because it might not be good. So yeah, here's what I missed. First of all, I forgot to add my Flare key, so there was like no error reporting going on. So I loaded the logs page on Laravel Cloud and went through it. And yeah, then I saw it. Something, key already taken, some SQL statement that could not be executed. I was like, what? So yeah, remember when I said Postgres is a bit different? Here's what I missed. If you have auto-incrementing indexes on your ID fields, they work different in Postgres than in MySQL. And when you import data, depending on how you import the data, it can happen that you might have to set them again. So Postgres knows that it's not ID 2 that is going to be next when you already have 150 or more entries in your table. So here's a few commands that help you figure this out. Of course, the ID part, if your column is different, change that. And just be sure Nextwell will also set the Nextwell for the current session that you're in. So maybe don't do that all the time, but you can, of course, figure out what's the max ID and then set it with setwell for your table. So another thing I missed is that if you like I do, sorry, I needed to say this, Postgres is case sensitive by default. Of course, if you're using the first one, the where-like, Laravel abstracts this away for you, unless you add a third parameter where you turn case insensitivity off, on, something. You can change how it behaves. If you use custom queries or raw queries, then you might want to try some of these variations. Postgres does have an I like function to be not case sensitive. Yeah, there was another query going on that I missed. So if you go with Postgres, do yourself a favor. Of course, you should do that in your preparation and beforehand, like I obviously did not. And have a look at this wonderful course from Aaron Francis about Postgres. For the issues I had, the free videos were more than enough because they covered exactly the stuff that I missed. And he was kind enough to offer us a 30% discount if you want to buy the code. So use Swiss Artisan for 30% off. But now, you're not here to look at my slides. You probably want to see, for those who haven't, how Laravel Cloud looks like. So may the demo gods be with me. They usually are not, but maybe we're lucky today. All right, you can see anything. Good. All right, let's see. So, I gotta change this to display to mirror my screen, otherwise this is gonna be a nightmare. So, arrange. How does this work? Drop it on it or use as mirror. All right. Okie dokie. So, who already uses Laravel Cloud? Did you deploy something? Even if it's not like live, but did you try and deploy something? Okay. Did you like it? All right. So, yeah. This is the, as you can see, when I started, only US regions were available. So currently, wireinthewild.com is living in the cloud in the US. And as you can see, there's no storage bucket yet. But like I said before, I'm using one from Hetzner, and that works fairly well. So far, the site is okayish in speed. I think it's mostly due to not very optimized queries like I do. Remember what I said about if you like I do, like queries are very slow.
I like it slower.
Huh?
I like it even slower.
Yes, absolutely. You are totally correct. So, yeah. As you can see, it all works. The images here on the live site are now coming from Hetzner. And yeah, it was sort of pain-free to do this. But of course, for this talk, I wanted to move the site to Frankfurt as well. And yeah, I optimized a few tiny things. And as you can see, right now it's using a bucket here. I don't want to bother you by running all the commands. This time I learned, I tested whether Flare works and gives me some error reporting. I don't want to bother you with running all these commands, but let me just show you how these commands look like, and I'm going to show you the code afterwards. So, like I said, based on the blog post from Flare, I wrote a slightly different command that also takes into account that your primary key might be named differently, or that you have a table that doesn't have a primary key, or that you don't forget to set your next value for auto-incrementing keys. These commands are super fast. What's a bit slower is moving the files from Hetzner to the S3 storage, or R2 storage actually, in the back here. But it still worked. It took a few moments, but it's totally fine. So let's have a look at some code. Oops. So basically what I wanted to do is have a flexible command that uses the query builder that lets me define a source and a destination database. Database, and like you set it up in Laravel in your database config file as like two different database connections. And then I wanted to do it by table, and also allowed the possibility to chunk it. Of course, only for tables that have an actual index or an ID, fourth running ID thing. Otherwise, it might not work properly. Yeah, so what we do here, we get the primary key, or we try to get it. And then if there's a from option, we try to get only the entries after that. Make a nice progress bar, because you have to have a progress bar. And then there's two different options. If we have a primary key, migrate with primary key or without. And then it will also check whether we should update the sequence. Like I said, if you already have 150 entries or more in your table and the next auto-incrementing key is 2, something's wrong. And some things might break. Yeah, that's about it. Feel free to roast the code later, or try it out, or come up with improvements. Like I said, it will be linked on the website here. Then, because I'm lazy and I thought, artisan commands, so cool, I tried to do the same thing with the storage mirroring. So basically you define two different disks, could be local, could both be S3 compatible storages. I haven't tested it with the other drivers, but should potentially work too. And a destination disk, and then you give it some directories, and it will try and stream these files over and create a nice little graph, and so on. I'm using restream, writestream, so it should sort of work memory okay-ish for larger files as well. Of course, like I said, my project's fairly small. It's like the largest folder has like 400 images. They are sort of large-ish, like around 4 megabytes. But yeah, that worked pretty flawlessly. All right. That's the wrong thing. Let's go back to this place. And stop the mirroring. All right. Demo time. Sort of worked. I did not like really demo any code and did not try any code, because if I try, it usually fails. But I'm happy to answer your questions and show you more stuff in the cloud in a minute. So you might be wondering, should I move my projects to the Laravel Cloud now that it's out? And I give you the very definitive answer that all developers will probably have spoken once at least. It depends. It depends on your use case, of course, and it depends on costs. For example, if you get for the S3 storage at least, if you get a Hetzner object storage, it's like 5 or 6 euros for 1 terabyte a month. And on cloud, it would be like at least 4 times the price. Other than that, I'm definitely going to try like more production-ready paid projects to the Laravel Cloud, just to give it a try. And also because I don't want to maintain servers and I don't want to hire, no offense against DevOps people, but I don't want to necessarily hire, or I don't have the budget to hire a dedicated DevOps person usually. So yeah. Then there was this. For those of you who were at Laracon EU or have seen the video afterwards or have been on Twitter or any other social platform, Taylor, the creator of Laravel, gave us and themselves the mantra, "We must ship." I like it, but I don't like if people like tell me what to do. So instead of "we must ship," I say we just ship whenever we want, however we want. And so if you try out the cloud, it would be wonderful if you use the hashtag "we just ship" and tell your stories. I might want to do something with it in the future. I don't know yet. So yeah, you will find the links and the code in detail and some other ramblings that I probably forgot under this link. And thank you very much. Any questions?
The first question.
So this is sort of on topic. So you said the Hetzner storage is very, very cheap.
Yeah.
How does it compare as far as egress cost to R2?
I think they're even more cheap compared to the other options out there, but I would have to check.
Right, because I know that with R2, the storage is slightly more expensive than
Yeah.
S3, but the egress is free, basically. So
Yeah, I think it's sort of the same, or at least almost on par, but I'm not 100% certain.
The other question, you didn't say why you didn't use disk storage. Is disk storage just not something you can do? Like, can your app not write to your local disk?
I haven't tried it actually, but I wanted to move to an object storage for the longest time, but I think they now have the option to store stuff on disk. I think in my first try in December, something did not work when I tried to write files and then deploy it again.
Okay, I was just curious because I haven't tried to deploy one yet, but I have several apps that use on-disk SQLite, and I didn't know if that was going to...
That sort of worked, at
sort of
least
worked?
in some tries.
That sort of works good enough for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, because databases are not important data, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, so it's fine, yeah. Yeah, but you would have to try it again. Actually, that's actually a really good question. I did not try this.
Yeah, so I haven't actually deployed anything. My business partner has been deploying stuff for the last 24 hours, just nonstop.
Yeah.
I've been doing other things and haven't checked in with him. He hasn't like texted me to scream that anything's broken, but so apparently it works fairly well. But no, I've not.
Very good.
I've not tried anything myself yet. So.
And I saw something in the Laravel Cloud docs that they will offer some disk storage as well.
Okay.
That you can add to the compute instances, but I couldn't find an option yet. So I was like, I want to move to S3 compatible storage anyway, so why not give it a try?
Great, thank you. Very informative.
Thank you, Ed.
Other questions?
When you demoed the cloud interface,
Yeah.
I saw that your Postgres database was a hibernation timeout of 300 seconds.
Yes.
So you are running your live system Wire in the Wild on the hibernation mode?
Yes.
And does it work well?
Yes. It's unlike hibernation for compute, the wake up time is a lot faster. I don't know why or how, but yeah, it's fairly fast.
Okay, in seconds, 1 second?
I think
Seconds
around, I think less than a second
Oh, that's great.
or maybe a second. I haven't really tested it, but it was like not an issue that I noticed a lot.
What is it for compute?
I did not turn it on at the moment, but you can set it in a different range when it should go into hibernation. And
Yeah.
but the wake up is
Yeah.
longer, a lot longer. I think it's 8
It's
seconds.
around 8, yes.
Yeah, so that's too long.
I have pages of taking 6 to load.
I don't. I mean, I wouldn't have the patience to like be there for 8 seconds. So, but the hibernation for the database,
For
I didn't
Postgres,
notice. So,
Well, that's perfect. Thanks.
more questions.
Will you come back to MySQL now it's available, or you stick to Postgres, like you're convinced to Postgres?
I think I'm gonna stick with Postgres for now. Also because I just want to know how much this like pet project of mine will be costing on the plan where you can have Postgres and was it the Pro plan, or there's like a sandbox plan, Pro plan, and Team Enterprise. Naming is difficult. So on the cheap one where you can have custom domains. So I'm going to stick with it because for other projects, I'm definitely going to need to use Postgres in the future for the extensions. So I want to play around with it. That's usually how I learn best. Like I have a pet project, try some things out, and then adopt it to my client work or my business work.
Is Postgres an extra fee, like MySQL? You have to pay 5 more per month?
I don't think so. It's just, but I mean, the cluster is more expensive than MySQL, maybe, I think. The running costs, but I'm not sure. I'm wondering who will be the first to deploy a pricing calculator that actually makes sense on the Laravel Cloud. So let's see what comes up next week.
Thank you.
More questions? So who's going to move to cloud now? Would you mind if I took a picture for the kind Mr. R. and Francis for giving us a coupon code? Sure. Let's see. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. If you don't have any further questions, you can ask me later as well.
Thank you.